Good morning, Morai Rabotai. We are continuing on Masechet Avodah Zarah and Daf Yudchet, Amud Aleph, on the bottom of the Amud, 7 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Today's Amud is being learned. Lischut Yehoshua ben Diana, Yael bat Rivka, ben Asher ben Asi. Today's Amud is also being learned. Lischut Rufa Sherma of Yaakov Meir ben Nahid. And today's Amud is also being learned. Aliyat Neshama of Tzipora bat Yitzchak. Now we are in the middle of discussion of what happened with one of the Asara Arugei Malchut, Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa. We spoke about himself, his wife, and his daughter. Now we're in the middle of discussion of what happened to his daughter. We mentioned before that she was sentenced to be sitting in Kubash Shel Zonot, to become a prostitution material for the business of the Roman officers. As v'shalom, you think the daughter of Tanai Eloki, Rabbi Hanina ben Tradion, sitting there, and the Gemara said that was because she had a certain level of itzniut, a midah keneged midah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu put him in an enforced level of itzniut, even though that you will see in the Gemara that nothing perhaps happened to her, but the mere fact of sitting in Kubash Shel Zonot for a daughter of Rabbi Hanina ben Tradion is a tremendous, tremendous bizayon. Now, the Gemara says, Beruria de Bidhud Rabbi Meir, Bratet Rabbi Hanina ben Tradion avai. You know who Beruria, the famous Beruria was? Beruria was perhaps the strongest woman figure in the Gemara. She was a tremendous Talmid Hacham. You find her often giving musar to Talmidei Hachamim, including her own husband. The Gemara says in Masechet Eruvin Daf Yud Gimel that Rabbi Meir was the greatest of the Tanaim. The Gemara says Lo Meir Shemo Ela Neorai Shemo. His name really was not Meir. His nickname was Meir. Why was he nicknamed Meir? Because Shaya Meir Enei Chachamim BaTorah. Because he was enlightening the eyes of Chachamim in Torah. Tremendous, Rabbi Meir. Gemara there says Halakha is not like Rabbi Meir, even though that he was the greatest of the Tanaim, because he was so deep and so far ahead from everyone else. They didn't even notice his tracks. They didn't know when he's serious or when he is actually exercising intellectual exercise. He could take a sheretz, says the Gemara, and he could prove to you that it's tahor from 49 different ways, and you wouldn't know. And he could do the opposite as well. He could take something tahor, Omar Ebo memtet panim shel tum'ah. He could prove to you in multiple different ways that this is tameh. Perhaps that's why halakha Rabbi Meir begezderotav. When you knew it was serious, begezderotav halakha is like Rabbi Meir. So the wife of Rabbi Meir was so big that oftentimes when you find him and her talking, learning, she's the one coming on the top. We had this in Gemara Masechet Brachot Daf Yud, of course, that Rabbi Meir had a very difficult life. Rabbi Meir had a very difficult life. Of course, we got introduced in Masechet Chagigat after Zayin with his Rebbe, Elisha ben Avuya, the difficult time that he had trying to make him come back after he had gone astray. He lost 2 of his children, Rahman al-Litzlan. You'll see the difficulty that he had to deal with right now, which is tremendous. And nevertheless, he had also difficult neighbors. He had minim that were his neighbors, and they would bother him constantly. And he got to the last strand, so he started davening that they should die, right? And Beruria comes in, and she sees that he's davening for them to die. He says, "Wah, ma datich? Why are you davening?" Because the pasuk says, "Itamu chataim min haaretz u'shayim odenam." So Maharsha, they're trying to explain the diktuk of this, but simply understanding, the Gemara there says, it doesn't say Yitamu Hotim. And if it means sinners, why do you have to say it twice? It's superfluous and redundant, right? Why do you have to say Yitamu Chataim min haaretz u'shayim odenam? So must be Chataim, doesn't mean Chataim with the dagesh, which is sinners, but Chataim, the plural form for Chet, the sins would cease to exist. And automatically, Urshaim Odenam. That means they would not be Reshaim anymore. these people. They will become tzaddikim. Means you're davening that they should do tshuva instead of davening for them to die. And Rabbi Meir surrendered. He'd start davening that they should do tshuva, and the Gemara says, lo and behold, they did tshuva. So that's Beruria. And you find her constantly, coming on the top when she debates Talmidei Chachamim. She was a tremendous person. And says the Beruria, Amra lo zila bi milta diatva achatai bekuba shel zonot. It's very disgraceful for me that my sister should be sitting in kuba shel zonot. Go and redeem her. Now, why would she say something that sounds so selfish? Why can't you just say, well, Pidyon Shvuim. Pidyon Shvuim, you have a nice Jewish girl, Beis Yaakov girl in Kuba Shel Zonot. It's a mitzvah Pidyon Shvuim to go buy her back. But the answer is, because the halacha would have it, that's asur to do Pidyon Shvuim yoter mikted mehen. When the goyim take captives, it's not mutar to buy them in an excessive price, because then you're encouraging the goyim. Same thing is with the Sefer Torah. You want to buy back from them. It will be asur to do excessive amounts of money, because it will be encouragement for them to go steal or take captives, kidnap people, to sell them for exorbitant amounts of money. So therefore we don't do that. And you'll see Rabbi Meir had to spend tremendous amount of money for this. Right? It was not, this was taken by the government officials. It was not just a regular day-to-day Pidyon Shvuim. So therefore, she says, do it for me, because a person could call Asher La'adam iten bad nafsho. You could do anything for yourself. And here, Rabbi Meir was not direct relative of this woman, but he is the husband of Beruria. And Beruria says, I'm direct relative of this girl, my sister. And therefore, if it pains me, you will be mutar for you to pay all this money that you have to pay to get her out. So even within little simple talk of Beruria, you see tremendous chokhmah. If you go through all the halachot of Pidyon Shvuim, that really comes out to be like that. Now, says the Gemara, Shakal Tarkeva de Dinari, took Tarkeva shel Dinarim, that's 3 se'in of gold coins. 3 se'in, if you do the math, it will become 36 times 4 times 54. It will end up being basically 7,700 some odd number grams of gold. That means almost 8 kilograms, almost 16 pounds of gold. That's a lot of money, right? Even back then, it was a lot of money. So says the Gemara, Ve'azal, he goes, Amar, he said to himself, Ilo it abit ba'isra. If she's stayed pure still, mit abit nisa, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to help me and make a nest to get her out. Yavda isura, but if she is not pure anymore and she's given in, then lo it abit la isura. Then it's not going to be a nest. So how does he know? How does he figure out whether or not she has done a Yisur? He goes with his Streimel and Kapata as Rabbi Meir with the Peot and say, did you do something? No. He had to test her. So he looks like, he dresses up like a Roman guard, right? And he goes in disguise to talk to her, to see if he could talk her into Avera. Azal nakat nafshek echad parsha. He goes like one of the officers. Amar le Hashmili says, come, let's go. Amra le, she says, oh, I would have liked to, but I'm nida. Can't do it, right? Can't do it. I'm in amidst my period, my menstrual cycle, and therefore I can't. Dashtanana. Amala, he said, no problem. You are so good, I'm going to wait for you. Right? Mitrach na mitrach, mirtach. I am going to wait for you. No worries. Let's make a date. Amra lo, she says to him, Nevishin tuva de shapira. And he says, wait for me for a while. Look at how many beautiful women are here. I'm like a monkey in comparison to them. Don't waste your time. Go. So she was very smart. Instead of like resisting, she's like, go. Basically, she pushed him away in a very politically correct way. Amar, Remeir said, Shmamina lo avda isura. You see from here that she hasn't done Isurim. Kol da'ati amra lehachi. Anyone that comes to her, she says the same thing, and so far, Baruch Hashem, she's been good. Azal, now he starts his process of Pidyon Shvuim. Azal legabe shomer dida. He goes to the guard of this Kubash Zonot, that they would have to guard them, and they would have to pay taxes to the Roman government. It was a whole business back then. What they did with the people who government caught, and it was no catch and release. It was catch and kubash and zorot, right? And the guard had to be accountable for the number of people that he had to the Roman officials, to the Roman government. Everything was very mesudar. Remember, the Romans took over from the Yivanim, and they were very much on top of their business. So Amar le, Havani alay. He says, give her to me. Amar le, Mistafina Malchuta. He says, are you kidding? They're going to kill me. If they realize that I let her go, my head is at stake. Amar le, Shkol Takvad Dinar. He says, don't worry about it. Take this bag of gold. Parga plach or parga levelach. Half of it should be enough for you to bribe every time that they come and say, what happened? Pay us her taxes, the money that you make. Give him some bribe, and give him the money that they would have to get from you, and then still you have a lot going for you. You'll be good for a long time. When the money, the half of Tarkaf Dinarin finishes, then what am I going to do when they come and ask me for more? Then they're going to realize that I let her go, and then I would be, you're delaying the problem, but you're not solving it. Amalei said, Emma, you should say, Elahade Meir Aneni. Right? Everyone knows the Kupas Takash Rabbi Meir, Elahade Meir Aneni. That's this where it comes. It's the Gemara of Avodah Zarah, Daf Yud Chet, Amud Aleph fame, the last words of Amud Aleph, Elahade Meir Aneni. By the way, it's not so simple if the Meir is a reference to Rabbi Meir. It's not so simple. There are those who say Meir means the Nes of Chanukah, Meir for the one that enlightens the life for Klal Yisrael. It's not so simple because those who say Elad Rabbi Meir Aneni, so that kind of like takes away from that. If you take a look at the Maharsha, you'll see that he explains it in a different way. But he says, you say Elad Meir Aneni and you will be good. Right? And by the way, from here you see that it's not just that Rabbi Meir would say Elahad Meir, because you see, it's telling this guard, you say Elahad Meir also works, right? So it's not that everyone, if your name is Ruben, you say Elahad Ruben Aneni, right? Again, Elahad Meir is not necessarily a reference to the name of Rabbi Meir, not so simple if it is reference to anyone's name, but it's reference to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is Meir, either by Nes of Chanukah, which was very much prevalent right before this story, and or the Meir in general. Now, Umi Yemar, he says to him, the guard says, wait a second, you're just telling me do this and then you're leaving, right? Who says I may say Elad Meir Aneni and they'll kill me even quicker, right? Knowing that I'm connected to you. So says the Gemara, Umi Yemar de Hachika, Amale Hashtachaz. He said, you'll see. Havu Hanau Kalbi, Davuka Achli Inshi. There were these klavim. Again, Romans had a lot of wild animals that whose job was to destroy people. The whole gladiators and the bullfights and lion fights and so on and so forth. The stadiums originally was not for basketball and football, but or soccer. It was for people to watch lions tearing apart slaves and bears eating people alive. That's what it was. The excitement of watching a fight between an animal, the bulls and the lions and the bears, were people. They had also dogs that ate people. So these dogs there that you didn't want to step on their toes, literally. And Rabbi Meir takes a nice piece of stone and throws it at these dogs. Right? That's the last thing you would want to do in your life. So it says the Gemara, Shagal Kala, Shada Abu. He yelled at them, or he threw a piece of stone at them. Havu Ka'atu lemichle. They started coming towards him to eat him. And he said, Elah Meir Aneni. He said, Elah Meir Aneni, and the dogs dropped dead. Or I'm not sure, just left him, right? Clearly, miraculously stopped pursuing Rabbi Meir. And this guy, in disbelief, he's watching this. And he says, whoa, this actually taka works. He says, fine, here it is, you take her. I'm afraid next time you're going to say, I'm going to drop dead. So he gives her the girl. And he goes, Rabbi Meir goes with his sister-in-law. The king, the Caesar, heard this, that one of his officers had betrayed him and deliberately let go of one of the people who was wanted by the king. Again, this is a disgrace for the Romans. This was a person that was sentenced to be here, sentenced together with her father and her mother as a rebellious family against the Roman government and empire. They brought him and they put him up to be hung. They want to kill him. And he said, oh, I know what to do. Amar Eladimir Aneni. He said, Eladimir Aneni. And Achtua. They couldn't hang him anymore. They couldn't. Whether they tried, they couldn't do it. It didn't work. Tried, every time they tried, something broke, right? The rope tore apart, the wood broke. They couldn't do it. Clearly, it was something that was miraculous. So they tell him, they say, wait a second. Amrule Maihai, what is this? They tell us, this is not normal. We have been hanging people from time immemorial, and it never happened like this. So says the Gemara, he says, like, honestly, I'll tell you what happened. This is what happened. He tells them the whole story of Rabbi Meir. I say, oh, Rabbi Meir, we're going to kill him now. So they had him draw the picture of who Rabbi Meir is and how he looks like, and they put it by the gates of Romi. Says the Gemara, Amalu hachi havamase, atu chakaku ledimutid Rabbi Meir. They had their professional artists draw a picture of Rabbi Meir, and they put it at pitcha de Romi. They put it on the gate of the city, and they said, underneath that picture, whoever sees this man, he should bring him, capture him, prize for him alive. Yom Achada, one time, a person saw him and recognized, this is the guy whose picture is by the gate of Romi. And says the Gemara, Rahat Abatre. He started running after him to catch him, and Rabbi Meir started running away. Says the Gemara, Alle bezonot. He had to.
Why didn't you just say this phrase?
Now it gets worse than that. First of all, you see, it's a good question. Why he didn't say Elahad Aneni? And maybe we should just not go to work and say Elahad Aneni, and money is going to pour down, right? You see that Rabbi Meir did not do that. He brought everything that he had. Actually, there are those of Farshim who say the reason that this worked in this specific case is it's not necessarily a blanket check for a blanket rule for any time that you're in trouble. You say that. There are those who say yes. But those who say that this only works here is because Rabbi Meir was mekayem v'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha. He gave every money, every penny that he had to do this mitzvah, and therefore he had the zchut that this should go well with a miraculous way, right? It's not that every time, and even this time, he told him, well, it's not going to be, it can't be somech anes, right? He says first, bribe them, give the money, hopefully by the time you're done with the money, there is no problem anymore afterwards, and you'll be good to go. But in case it becomes a problem, so you always have to do your hishtadlut. But now, the hishtadlut that Rabbi Meir did was very interesting. Says the Gemara, he's running, and this guy is chasing him, and says the Gemara, Ra'at mikamayu alle bezonot. He went to the bet zonot, right? Or the Gemara says there are those who say, he saw food cooked by Ovdei Kochavim, which is either tarif, or the Gemara is going to have the Mishnah later on in the Lamed He Amud Bet, a whole sugya until Lamed Chet of Bishulei Ovdei Kochavim, Patakum Bishulakum. So what he did was, he stayed there, he dipped his finger in the food, and dipped this finger in, and sucked on a different finger, appearing to people, to this guy that was chasing after him, that he is enjoying a taste of this tray food. And the guy stands and says, wait, that can't be a Jew. Let alone being Rabbi Meir. Can't be. He's eating treif. He's eating bishul akum, right? Or when he sees him go to Bet Zonot, he says, wavela. For sure can't be a Jew, right? Certainly can't be Rabbi Meir. The Mara says there are those who even say that Eliyahu Navi came looking like a Zonah, and he started hugging and kissing Rabbi Meir, and this, according to each one of these three, Amri, the Goyim said Chas v'Shalom. It can't be that this is Rabbi Meir. Chalila v'Chas. Rabbi Meir hava, lo hava avidachi. If this was Rabbi Meir, it would not do it. So it's probably a guy that looks like Rabbi Meir, or the artist messed up, right? So it can't be Rabbi Meir. So let him go. And then the Gemara says, Come Arak, after he saw, he realized that they're after him and they put a prize on his head, so to speak, a bounty on his head. He got up, Arak ata leBavel. Rabbi Meir's end of life was spent in Bavel. So if someone quizzes you, which was the big Tana that was born and raised in Eretz Yisrael and at the end of his life went to Bavel, is Rabbi Meir, right? Ikad Amri. And there are those who say the reason that he ran to Bavel from Eretz Yisrael was not because of this, but rather Ikad Amri Mehai Maseh. Some say because of this Maseh. Ikad Amri Mimaaseh de Beruria. There are those who say it was from the story of what happened to Beruria. Now, what happened to Beruria is very ambiguous because it's not mentioned in Gemara anywhere. But there is a Rashi over here. There's a Rashi over here in our Masechta, in our Sugya right over here, that explains that Beruria actually committed suicide. And it's a very, very, very sad story. And the details of that story and how it was mutar for her to commit suicide. Normally speaking, it would be asur to commit suicide. And a person that does that, we don't bury them in a Jewish cemetery even. So some of the laws of committing suicide, and when it would be mutar perhaps, and the whole thing of burial and people who overdose or kill themselves by throwing themselves off a bridge or Rahman Litzlan, some of those things, B'ezrat Hashem, we will discuss in the next shiur. Hazaku Baruch.